Hello, friends and family of First Presbyterian Church. What a joy it was to see many of you again for the first time in a long time this past Sunday as we gathered together in our beautiful sanctuary in each other's presence, in the presence of God to worship. And yet, I think we also experienced that there is a certain constraint and awkwardness still leveled upon us in this time. We are distanced from each other much farther than we wish to be. We can't touch each other with the warmth and pass the peace of Christ as we wish. And we are constrained through love for each other and safety to remain quiet behind masks, unable yet to sing the hymns and songs of praise that our hearts wish to let go. And yet in this time of constraint, I have been so impressed this week by a passage of Scripture in which I feel God is speaking to us to say, my children, we can worship with a deeper fullness than ever before. See if you don't feel the same thing as I read the words from Paul's letter to the Romans, the 8th chapter. Listen as the Spirit speaks to us. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to this present time. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groans that words cannot express. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for all of God's children in accordance with God's will. Friends, this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So is it possible that there is a way of communicating with all of our heart, soul, and strength, which is our spiritual sacrifice, our whole selves in total communion with God and each other, even amidst the constraints? I want to suggest to you that if we offer perfectly beautiful tunes and notes and eloquent words in perfect harmony, if the deeper soul is not expressing and listening with God, it might be along the lines of our righteousness being as filthy rags. For God seems to listen not on the outward, but to the inward. And that's where God finds beauty in our worship. There's also a secret I want to share with you. Among the world's greatest, most polished musicians, there is this fountain always, which is generating the music that moves us so. The great conductor Robert Shaw, who demanded such perfection and balance and beauty and polish in everything he conducted, nevertheless, if you got close to his podium while he was conducting the beautiful music, you would hear something like, it's very disconcerting. And then there was one of the world's greatest pianists of all time, which I am not, Glenn Gould, who was known to be a great pianist of Bach. When he would play, the recording engineers would be so frustrated because as he played, they would hear something like this. In other words, Glenn Gould was humming some kind of melody that didn't sound anything like the beautiful music he was playing, but to him, for him, it was the source of what was flowing through his fingers and the instrument. I want to suggest to you that when we cannot find the words, or even when the words are there, when we cannot find the notes and say, well, I can't carry a tune, or I don't have a good singing voice, or I can't play the violin or the cello or the piano, may I suggest that all the music And all that we need is already in us by the gift of God's Spirit if we will trust and engage and let that go. So when we sing Amazing Grace, if we can't carry a tune or sing the words out because it's not time yet in our culture, then we can go, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, saved a wretch like me. And God hears in the beauty and fills us in the depth of our soul. So, whatever we do, whether we sing, speak, pray, or remain silent, let us do all to the glory of God, and let us be transformed by his presence and his grace. Thank you, my friends. See you Sunday.